Hi, welcome to the parent webinar for the Winterline Global Skills Program. My name is Ashley Delahunt. I work as the Director of Student Services for Winterline. And let's jump into things. So in this webinar, I'm going to cover kind of an overview of the year. I'll talk about our communication plan for communication to and from the field. I'll also talk about student and parent expectations and answer some frequently asked questions and questions from you all. Let me introduce myself a bit further. As I said, my name is Ashley Delahunt. I work as the Director of Student Services. And what that means is I am your go-to person for any communication to and from the field. I work really closely with our field advisors in maintaining the health and well-being of our students. And I also take the time to prepare all our students for the year by meeting with them over the summer and helping to answer any questions they may have. And in 2016 and 2017, I worked as a field advisor for Winterline. I traveled with the group for the entire year, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. I loved getting to go to so many different places and live day to day with these young people, forming strong mentorship connections and having really meaningful conversations with students as they travel and learn about themselves is something I'm really interested in. And I have a therapeutic and educational background, having worked with adolescents and young adults in wilderness settings and also abroad. And I share that just to emphasize my deep connection and value in wanting to support each of our students so that they have a successful year. We have so many amazing people working behind the scenes to help create this program. And I just want to introduce you to some of the people that your students will interact with throughout the year. We have Eileen, who is a former field advisor and is working as the Director of Programs, and she does a lot of the logistics and behind the scenes to create the program and help make sure it runs smoothly. We also have Nick, who the students will meet at student orientation, and he is the president of Winterline. He's worn many different hats throughout the years, and having been a field advisor and doing a lot of different roles for Winterline, and he's somebody the students are going to meet. And we have Gabriella, who lives down in Panama. She will greet the students when they arrive and has helped to organize a lot of the programming that the students will be doing there, as well as Susu, who is in Costa Rica. She has developed a lot of the programming that students are doing down in Costa Rica, and is someone who the students will meet and work with down there. The students will spend most of their time with our field advisors, and we have such an outstanding group of field advisors who the students travel with, kind of spend their day-to-day with. They provide mentorship through one-on-one connection with our students and help set goals and help students keep track of their goals throughout the program. They're also there for support for any physical or emotional thing that may arise for students. The field advisors are a great resource. And our field advisors really bring the depth and the fun to this environment, trying to create a really supportive and healthy group for the students to be a part of. We have divided the year into what we call Stint 1 and Stint 2 FAs. And Stint 1 FAs will travel with the group to throughout the US and then down to Latin America. And Stint 2 FAs will travel throughout Asia, Africa, and Europe with the students. And the reason we've divided this up is we find that we get really highly qualified folks who have traveled extensively in these particular regions. So they're really excited to be leading groups of students through areas that they have traveled and really enjoyed being in. Awesome. I guess I want to say also that there are some of the field advisor bios up on our website under the staff page. Once I get all of the bios in, I will certainly email that to you all so you can meet and kind of get to know the field advisors. Before I go too deep, I'd like to go over just a little bit of Winterline lingo. so that we're all communicating on the same wavelength. Squads, we have 39 students enrolled in the program, and we divide that into 3 different groups called squads. Squads are kind of decided on what itinerary a student has selected, and so I will let you know by the end of this week what squad your student will be in. I know in my previous email I kind of left that a little vague, so I'll be giving more detail about squad assignments, and we'll share that with yourself and your student, as well as I'll reshare the itinerary for that specific squad. There will be a few times throughout the year where all the groups will overlap, and that will be at student orientation and select parts of programming in Costa Rica, Panama, and Boston. But for the majority of this year, students are kind of spending their day-to-day doing their core activities with just their individual squad. Students is what we commonly refer to our participants as. Your children are learning about themselves and the world around them outside of a typical classroom setting, and we see them as students of life and emerging global citizens. And what are FAs? As I mentioned before, FAs is short for field advisors. So those are the people who travel with the group, are their go-to people for the students for support and help manage the day-to-day logistics. And partners, those are the local organizations that we partner with to help teach the skills. For instance, when the students travel and do their driving skill, we partner with BMW Driving School. In Costa Rica, we partner with Outward Bound Costa Rica to do some of the hiking and nature kind of immersion parts of the trip. And the reason we work with these local organizations is that they are the experts in the skills that they're teaching. So we partner with them to teach our students these various skills. And in ISP, you'll hear a lot about that. That stands for an independent study project. The first ISP students do is in Monteverde, Costa Rica. And during that time, they'll be paired up with a local business, and they'll be kind of apprenticing for a week. Some examples of past ISPs for Costa Rica have been working on a coffee farm, working on a dairy farm, doing like bird research. So a big variety of skills students can kind of select and partake for the week. And then the big ISP is the week in Europe, where students are going to plan and execute their own independent project, where they pick a skill that they want to study. Maybe it's a passion, maybe it's a career interest, and they will kind of design a whole week around learning a new skill, and will do their own independent travel. And it's a really big project, and it's a really exciting part of the program as well. And so we start working on that from week 1, where students will brainstorm what it is they want to do, or maybe where they want to go. And there'll be lots of checkpoints along the way to make sure everyone's staying on track. Awesome. I'd like to just go over a brief overview of the year. We begin in Estes Park, Colorado. This will be our student orientation that is designed to, build group culture, help students get to know one another, help set goals for the year, and really prepare students for international travel. From there, the squads will travel to Costa Rica, then on to Panama, and back to Costa Rica. And a large part of trimester 1 is focused on connecting to the outdoors, learning sustainable living practices, and learning small business practices. We will take a winter break for the holiday season and regroup at the LA International Airport before traveling to Asia. I want to note, if your student will not be in the US prior to traveling to Asia, or if you live outside of the US and it makes more sense for them to travel directly to Asia from home, please just reach out to me and I can share our kind of policy on booking alternative flights. This is something that we offer for international students who it maybe doesn't make sense to book a flight to the US just to get on another flight elsewhere. And then when we group up for trimesters 2 and 3, the itinerary differs depending on which itinerary your child has Itinerary 1 will travel to Thailand, Cambodia, India, and Austria, where Itinerary 2 students will travel to Thailand, India, Rwanda, and South Africa. All squads will travel around Europe, learning different things, like in Venice, we'll study the arts, they'll do film production in Prague, and they'll do the driving school in Munich. And all squads will end the year in Boston, Massachusetts, for our final business skills and graduation. I want to note that the length of time spent on a skill kind of depends on like the depth of the skill. So for example, we spend one day doing Thai cooking, working in like the kitchen and learning different recipes. But our scuba partner is 5 days long because it involves certification at the end and it's a more in-depth skill. All right, I'd love to talk a little bit about Winterline's philosophy around student independence. We really want to empower all our students to become responsible young adults, to strengthen their awareness of the world around them, and to become safe and smart independent travelers. So what that looks like is each week we have a blend of structured and free time, allowing students to go out to eat on their own or maybe plan their own kind of outings in the evenings with other peers. We have built-in rest days throughout the program, and this is a great time for students to just recharge, connect with home. Some students like to go out on adventures, like if they're in a location and there's something that we're not doing there, they might plan a little outing for their rest days with other peers to go see the site. There are a few occasions where we allow students to sign off the program. And so what that looks like is if a student wanted to, say, leave Winterline, they really wanted to go somewhere or maybe visit a family or friends that they have abroad, and they wanted to like stay at a different location for the evening, they would have to sign off the program, kind of share their plans of where they're staying, where they're going, who they're going to be with. And have that all signed off by us. That is an option that we have in case somebody really wants to travel or you know, have something that they're dying to see that's just not built into our itinerary. We do have some of these rest days where students can sign off and go do their own adventure. I also want to note that our field staff are not with the group 24/7. So our field advisors are primarily, you know, they're responsible for the health and safety of the group, but they're primarily there kind of in the mornings and the evenings to help make sure students get to programming, engage in what they are learning. Our field advisors hold a lot of like evening circles, debriefs, things like that to really pull more meaning out of the experience for students. But the field advisors are not at every skill. So they'll kind of help get students settled into a new partner for the week, but they don't necessarily stay throughout the skill learning experience. That's when the local partners we work with really step in to teach those skills. And with this like level of independence, we do ask some things in return from our students. We ask that they advocate for their needs, to keep us informed about any changes to their maybe physical health, emotional health, mental health, things like that, so that we can be working together with our students to support them instead of them just trying to kind of figure things out all on their own. We ask that they, you know, keep their field advisors updated and informed if they're having any issues or challenges, or maybe, like I said before, a health thing comes up, to keep their FAs informed. And we ask that they show up as a responsible community member, and we'll talk a lot about that, what that means at student orientation, and help everybody kind of create goals together of how they want the group to look. Yeah, and then some other ways where students get that opportunity to really step out independently is on their rest days, like I said, when they have the option to either do a daytime activity out on their own or sign off the program and go spend the evening somewhere else. And then the independent study project in Europe is probably the biggest time where students really have this week to shine, to plan and execute their own project, to travel independently, and really push their edges in a lot of ways. And also spring break, that is a great opportunity for either parents to come out or maybe a sibling and spend time with your child. Maybe they want to visit someone they know in Europe, or maybe the student takes more time to travel solo or travel with a group of other Winterline peers. We've seen students kind of do it all over spring break. Sometimes parents come out, sometimes the whole family comes out and has a little European vacation. Other times, a small group of Winterline students may like travel together. Say there's a country they really want to go that's not on the itinerary. They might travel in groups of like 3 or 4 to go and see that over spring break. So it kind of varies what students like to do. And yeah, I had gotten a question about if a student chooses not to travel. So we will have an FA present in the city that that we've decided upon for spring break. However, we don't really plan any activities for that time. It's really just like a rest period, it's a break. So if a student doesn't want to travel, we will provide them with like housing and food and a place to stay, but we don't really have any day-to-day activities. I would say most often students are traveling on their spring break, and it's kind of like a split of if they travel with their parents or if they travel with other Winterliners. Yeah, we kind of see a little bit of both, and yeah, I think that's about all I have to say on that. Oh, and the dates for spring break are April 17th to the 22nd, and we'll get more kind of clarity around like where your student will be. That kind of depends on where their ISP location is going to be, so where you can meet them if you want to come out and travel. And they do need to return to Berlin on April 22nd. So that's kind of the ending point for spring break. I also want to note that this independence that we're giving students and trying to help them like step into in a really mature, responsible way, it can fluctuate and depend on how they're showing up in the program as a group, things like that. So, you know, if a group is struggling with adhering to our policies, not doing well, we might revoke their access to these free days, rest days, things like that. So that, yeah, that independence kind of comes and goes as the students are showing up positively in the program. I'd like to spend some time talking about the expectations that we set forth around attendance and engagement in our alcohol, tobacco, and drug policy. This is an important one, and I have spent time one-on-one with each student on their calls with me over the summer, going over this policy. We'll also talk about it at student orientation. And I want to inform all the parents about our policies as well. So attendance, we do set the expectation that students come and participate in programming. It's important to the group environment that people are engaged and trying. And so being engaged looks like having phones put away, showing up on time, being prepared with if there's any materials needed for that day. You know, we really want to kind of help students pull the meaning out of what they're doing. And so we understand that not everything's going to interest everyone. But by doing something that you're not interested in, hopefully you're still learning about yourself and finding out, you know, maybe what you're not interested in, but what your strengths are in other areas. So we ask that students show up, they try their best, they're engaged. That's our expectation there. That does exclude sick days. So if someone who was sick or ill, they just need to check in with their field advisor to kind of make sure that they're doing okay and get them help if they need it. But otherwise, we do expect students to show up to all the programming. Yeah, we do have like a attendance policy that's in the student handbook, which I'll be sending soon for you all to kind of look over. But yeah, that's just, you know, tracks when people are coming, and if there are any issues with the student being really disengaged in the program, I'll reach out to you. We'll have a conversation with your child because that's not the intention of this year to travel. The intention is to engage in new skills. So we want people to be showing up and participating in that. And our philosophy around alcohol. So I say Winterline is a unique program in that we really want to teach students how to be responsible with alcohol. If they choose to drink on the program, we have some set expectations. Those are that they must be of legal drinking age for that country. Alcohol must be consumed in open spaces, so it can't be drank like in people's bedrooms, behind closed doors. It must be like in an open space. We do set curfew that we expect students to check in with their FA when they have returned from a night out. And we have set dry and wet days. And so a dry day means no alcohol at all. Like a great example of that is when we're doing scuba diving for 5 days. We ask the students refrain from alcohol just to help support them and being able to show up to programming and be engaged and be their best selves. And then we do have some wet days, which are days students can drink alcohol. And those are often the rest days or these free days that we have built in when there's less going on and we want to meet students' needs to want to go out and kind of experience maybe the nightlife or something like that. We also have a couple like optional Winterline activities where students can engage in alcohol in a more like cultural, like immersion way. And so they'll be given the opportunity to go on a tour of a rum distillery if that's of interest. We also often do like a wine tasting in Venice. So there's a couple different ways that we try to introduce alcohol. These are optional for students to partake in, and just trying to give them more of a mature outlook on drinking if they choose to participate. Awesome. And I guess one more thing to note is just as the year progresses, we will give more freedom if it's warranted, or we'll restrict things if students aren't showing that they can be responsible with alcohol. So it's kind of a give and take depending on the level of trust from individuals and also the group. And a quick note on tobacco products: that is allowed on the program if used in appropriate spaces and does not interfere with the group culture, people's living space, things like that. So must be outdoors, away from others. And we are finding that more and more places have restrictions on like vape pens. So if you have a child that uses a vape pen, have a conversation with them. They are illegal, at least in Thailand as of now, so students can't travel with those to Asia. But yeah, just to note, to be responsible and respectful, and also abide by local laws if choosing to use tobacco. And then a note about our drug policy: we do have zero tolerance for students using any illegal substances while traveling, while on the program. And we have had to send students home in the past for either continuing to break our alcohol policy or violating our drug policy. So please note it's something we take seriously because we really want to have a supportive, connective group, and we find these things really get in the way. So I encourage you, if you think this might be a challenge for your child, if you have any concerns, please have a conversation with them, talk about why they're doing a gap year, what their goals are, remind them that this is a program and not just a year to travel, but also that they're part of the group and that comes with responsibilities. Awesome. And yeah, a couple of things about what to expect as a parent. I'll be sending a monthly newsletter that will have updates from the field, photos, things like that. You can also follow our blog for more frequent updates every Friday. While the program is running, we'll share photos from the week. They're a little bit slow in the beginning to get photos up and out, but give us a few weeks and we'll be getting more and more photos from students to be able to share out. We also have some blog entries that students will write throughout the year, so I encourage you to check those out. We have a handful of students who are working on our media team to help make videos, take photos, and write blogs about the year. So we'll have a lot of great content and info from this particular year for you to read up on our blog. I also, want to remind you or to have a conversation with your child that they keep in touch with you and share this experience. Maybe coming up with something that feels comfortable for how often you want to be in touch or get updates from them, so that the whole trimester doesn't go by and you haven't heard from them. Do note we will have limited Wi-Fi at times. So some of those times are kind of early on at the YMCA, because we're spending so much time on like team building and, you know, kind of developing the group. We ask that students aren't on their phones. And then in Costa Rica, in the beginning down when they're doing the outward bound, they don't have any Wi-Fi there. So there'll be intermittent spots where students will have connectivity. And what do I want to say about that? Yeah, our field advisors will always let students know when they're going to be off the grid for, say, like they travel somewhere and they're going to be off grid for 10 days. We'll let them know ahead of time so they can call up their families or whoever they want to be in touch with and say, hey, I'm going off grid. I'll be in touch when we get back. So it kind of ebbs and flows, but there's definitely times for them to check in, Wi-Fi at hostels, things like that. And while I'm here, let me make a note about SIM cards and communication. So I had someone ask a question about, you know, how do students stay in touch and things like that. So it's important that everybody travels with an unlocked smartphone. And if you don't know what that is, the easiest thing is to just call your network provider and ask, hey, is this phone locked or unlocked? Unlocked will mean that you can put different SIM cards in and it won't like affect your kind of like family plan or whatever plan that you have. And this is important because for every country students visit that's outside of their home country, we'll provide them with a SIM card that gives them a local data plan so they can use WhatsApp, Google Maps, things like that. Also a local phone number, although most often when you're on WhatsApp, you don't have to change your phone number. You can just communicate on the same number. And I've shared this also with the students, but no, it's not unlimited data, but it is like enough data for them to, like I said, use WhatsApp, use Google Maps, use things like that while they're traveling. It's not enough data to be like live streaming or, you know, streaming videos, things like that. Yeah, also please know, like if a urgent need comes up and you really need to communicate something with your child, but they're off grid, please reach out to me. I am often in touch with the field staff and I can reach them and get something out. So if there becomes an urgent need to communicate and you're not able to reach your child, just reach out to me. Yeah, and I guess one thing I wanted to say earlier about in terms of just communication, if your child were to get sick or injured or have something come up, maybe with like their emotional well-being, I would be in touch with you to share, you know, what was going on. So any kind of medical care beyond what our field staff can administer, I would call you, send you an email, make sure that you're in the loop about what's being done, how, you know, everybody's being treated, if there's any follow-up next steps, things like that. For any like behavioral issues that may arise, we often will try to work with the student one-on-one first, you know, to try to reset that issue or help them set goals so they can move past, say they're always disengaged in programming. We'll try to work with them to set some goals around that. If it becomes like an unresolved issue or really persistent, we'll rope a parent in to help provide more support and talk about like next steps if that behavior doesn't shift. Yeah, and then a note on like medical things and insurance. I get asked that question a lot. So we sign all the students up for a travel medical insurance. And so they'll be covered outside of their home country. And basically what that looks like is students will have to pay upfront for any medical care. So if they had maybe an infection like strep throat or something like that, they would go into a clinic, get their medicine, you know, pay for all of that upfront, and then submit a claim to the insurance provider to get reimbursement. And the claims are fairly simple to fill out, and our field staff can kind of talk the students through, and be one of the other skills that they're learning is just how to take care of their medical paperwork. So it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, the policy will be shared with you all before the program when we sign everybody up. Some ways that you can support your child while they're abroad. It's totally natural to get homesick to maybe have some conflict in the group, to feel tired or worn out. This year is bound to have ups and downs for all of our students. And as your child reaches out to you for support, I ask that you ask them in return, have you talked to your field advisor? Have you connected with them? And I say this not to negate your role as a parent. I absolutely want you to be in touch and be of support to your child. I say this because the field advisors are the ones living there. They're there 24/7, pretty much. They're always there to support the students, and they're the ones who can really help to implement some change or provide support, or just be a listening ear. So it's important that our field staff are connected and know what's going on with our students. Awesome. Some other things that is great to do is sit down with your child and help create a budget. We spend some time working with students about how to use money responsibly, encouraging them not to just spend all their money in one place, and how to really make their money last longer. But it's great to kind of come up with a budget, thinking about, what they might spend money on, and planning. I like to encourage students to plan for one big outing every trimester, something that might be really fun to do on their free days, to go maybe on a local tour or travel outside of where we're staying. So just have a little extra for those fun activities. And I also encourage you to just have a really open conversation with your child about what it means to make smart decisions. Thinking back to all the things I shared about our alcohol policy, so how to make smart decisions, how to show up responsibly, how to really be part of a group, knowing that this is a group experience, and everybody's, what you bring to the table really affects others. So yeah, chatting with them about just stepping more into their adulthood and seeing this as a mark of transition for them all. All right, and some of the FAQs I get talking about budget. So we typically see students spend about $20 to $40 a week for trimester 1 and 2, and about 40 plus for trimester 3. And things that students spend money on are any souvenirs, any clothing, if they need to resupply their hygiene kits, any alcohol purchases, things like that are not in the kind of program expenses that we share with students. There's a mix of group meals and per diem. So some places will have breakfast, lunch, and dinner all together as a group, and other locations students will be given a per diem for, say, maybe lunch and dinner. Say breakfast is always included, but we'll have lunch and dinner out, and we'll give students a set amount of money for the week for them to budget and kind of eat within their means. And so this is another great opportunity for them to practice budgeting and kind of finding ways to make their money go further while they're traveling. Couple important things to remember. Students need to have a debit or credit card with access to an ATM. And this is because it's super helpful to have access to get local currency out when they're traveling. Also to set up either a PayPal or Venmo account, link it to a debit card before they travel. This is how we pay students for their Europe ISPs when they get ready to book their travel, buy plane tickets, things like that. We use Venmo mostly for our US students, and PayPal for international students, because that's just how those systems work best. So have that set up, link it to a card, and we'll also make sure everybody does that at orientation before we travel abroad. It's also really helpful to make a photocopy of everything in their wallet before they travel. Maybe just take a quick snapshot of that. That's in case their wallet gets missing. You will have a record of what was lost and what needs to be canceled or what needs to be reordered, things like that. And then I also encourage students to carry 2 copies of their passport and stash them in different locations. Yeah, we have a copy of everyone's passports on file, but it's great for them to just be in the practice of carrying copies in case they needed them. And do know that your student is responsible for carrying their passport while they travel. there'll be times when they check into like a hotel and we'll have to hand in passports to kind of get scanned and copied over, but then students will get them back, and it is ultimately their responsibility to safely store and carry that while they're traveling. Yeah, I also get questions about like when I can visit my child, and the best, you know, you have winter break as a time to connect, go on vacations, you know, spend time together. You can also travel to meet your child over spring break. And like I said before, I'd say like definitely a handful of parents do choose to do that. So it's not uncommon for families to come out and spend time in Europe over spring break. And then we also have graduation, which will be in Boston, Massachusetts. And we encourage family to come if that's within their means and works for their schedule to come and be a part of our graduation. And I want to make a note on the Western State credit. So if your child has signed up for credits with Western State, do note they have to register with Western and pursue college credit in order to get the tax benefit from using the 529 funds. Students will also be given a syllabus for each course that they're signed up for, and that will have kind of a list of the assignments and the various due dates. I definitely recommend students making a calendar. I think it's really helpful. They'll kind of lose track of days while they're traveling, so to have a calendar with reminders of when papers are due. And we have quite a few students doing credit this year, which is awesome. And so hopefully they can pair up with a buddy and kind of keep each other accountable to doing their work and getting it submitted. Our field advisors can provide some support, but ultimately it's up to the students who are taking credit to, you know, pursue and turn that in and complete their assignments on time. I'm trying to think of some other questions that I have gotten. A common question is about immunizations, and we provide a list on the med form of the required immunizations. Those are the standard school vaccinations that most students already have. Anything beyond that is really a decision between you and your home doctor. I advise you to visit with a travel doctor, kind of share a list of where we're going to be traveling to. If you need that, reach out to me. I believe I've shared that with everybody, but if you need a refresher, happy to send that. And that's really helpful to just say, hey, we're going, you know, to this spot in India. What things should I be aware of? Is there medications I need to take? I would say, like with malaria, we kind of see students go either way. Some students choose to take medicine for it. Others choose not to. It's really a personal choice. So I don't have more to say other than to connect with your home doctor or a travel doctor to get those recommendations as to what works best for you all. And yeah, another question that was asked was about homestays. And so the students will do a homestay in Monteverde, Costa Rica. And we work with the Monteverde Institute, which is a really well-established organization who does homestays and apprenticeships for people traveling from all over. We've worked with them every year and had a lot of success with their program. You know, the homestay families have been vetted by our risk management criteria, and kind of what it looks like is students will be doing their apprenticeship during the day, and so that's where they'll kind of go to work and, as I mentioned before, study things like coffee farming or dairy farming, different skills like that during the day, and then they'll return to their homestay at night. And the homestay accommodations are, you know, students will always have their own bedroom. They won't necessarily have a private bath, but they will have an indoor bathroom. They'll have their own bedroom. They're all like people's homes, like indoor spaces, generally pretty nice. We have students fill out a little questionnaire about their interests and things like that to help match them with a homestay partner, like if they want to have young kids in the house or if they really love dogs, things like that, so we can help pair them so it's a little bit of an easier transition to doing the homestay. And a note just in general on our accommodations, students will stay in like a variety of different accommodations throughout the year. They'll be in tents and camping when they do their Himalayan trek for 8 days in India. and also students who have chosen to travel to South Africa. So we'll be spending about a week living in tents there. But other than those two experiences, you know, most of the time students are in hostels, staying in like group rooms, maybe like 4 to 6 individuals to a room, kind of bunkhouse style. When they're in Asia, we see that they pair more in like hotels. So we'll have just maybe 2 students to a room, which is kind of a nice break after sharing a room with a bunch of people. And then in Europe, it goes back to more like big group housing, lots of students in a room. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. There is one really kind of fun and different spot they'll stay in Costa Rica, where they stay in kind of like an open-aired bunkhouse. So, you know, the accommodations are varied depending on where they're at, but they'll always have like a place to sleep, a clean place to sleep, shower, use the bathroom, things like that. Awesome. I think that was all the main questions I've gotten from the webinar earlier, but feel free to message me with more questions if you have them. And I want to just end with a couple of reminders. So all paperwork needs to be in to me by August 15th, which is this week. That is like super helpful for us in preparing for the year. If you're not able to make that deadline, please reach out to me so we can make a plan about, you know, how we can support you and how we can get things in. You can just directly email me if that's easiest, or use that Google folder that I sent out. And please check in with your students and ask them if they've done an onboarding call with me. I like to connect with every student before the program starts for about 45 minutes to an hour, just kind of go over their forms, help answer their questions, establish a bit of a relationship, and as we said before, talk about our different policies and expectations for the program. Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to watch this recording of the webinar. I'd love to just send an invitation out if you have more questions or you feel like it'd be really helpful to connect one-on-one. Please send me an email or give me a call, and we can set time to just connect one-to-one to help you feel prepared, to help your child feel prepared, to have a really successful and amazing year. All right, thank you so much.